We're officially on.
We're fucking on.
We're on, and today we have Mitch Weiland. Thanks for joining us, man.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, man. So we've been trying to get you on for a while now, just to chat about a few different bits and pieces. So
Yeah, we've been trying to get here for a little while. A good few weeks. We're here now.
we had a good chat on the phone like last week because he was like, "Oh, I'm going to come up. I'm going to come on. Let's talk about AI and let's talk about aliens and all that kind of shit." And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's do it."
That's what we want. Repping the merchandise. Well, the company merch as well for Pot Plant Paradise. Good logo.
Yeah.
On the green background as well. One of multiple businesses you run. You're an entrepreneur at 26 by the sounds of it. You mentioned before we started that you've obviously been landscaping for how many years was it now?
8 years. I've been in the landscaping industry for now.
So you've started that fresh 18, came straight out of school and did your apprenticeship, or talk us through how that came about.
So I haven't actually got an apprenticeship, believe it or not. I went straight into the field with a friend of my father's, and that was at age 17, just right out of school, maybe a month out of school. From there, I loved it so much. I was actually enrolled into university to study accounting, but I love being outdoors, so I quit that idea. 3 days after I turned 18, I decided I would start my own business, and I started in the just gardening and mowing. And I was learning throughout this period with my old boss at the time. He very knowledgeable bloke, that guy. He worked on a golf course for 30 years. So
oh wow, yeah. So when you first started, it was just gardening and mowing, because like you and I have never talked about SA Premium and kind of how it started and stuff like that. So this is all new news info to me as well. So kind of like what do you mean? You were just doing like bushes and trimmings and grass and mulch and all that kind of stuff, and there was no more commercialized stuff, or
no. So when I first started, in fact, it was called Mitch's Mowing and Landscaping.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And as we progressed, I decided I'd better take my name out of there and try to make it a little bit more professional. But I started the business with no money down. I started with what I had at the time, and I borrowed equipment from family members to get started. I printed off some flyers and some business cards, and I letterbox dropped around the neighborhood. I started locally, and I picked up my first job. I remember going to the quote. I was so nervous, I almost threw up in the car on the way there.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it close by to your house?
It was a street over from where I grew up.
Yeah,
on Greenwich Court. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because so this is kind of like how we're friends. So like we've been family friends, and Lachlan is friends with his younger brother Jackson.
Yeah.
And so we lived on a street, and then they lived the street behind.
Wait, Jackson, who I've met?
The one who does the advanced trailer bins. Shout out to advanced trailer bins.
Yeah, so I've met him.
Big shout out.
Yeah.
Dropped me off a couple of trailer bins.
Yeah.
No, I've met him.
Entrepreneurial family.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are a bit,
hustlers.
Yeah.
We're a bit of hustling going on.
So they just like the street behind. So it was literally on the street, was it?
It was on the street, and I was so scared doing this quote, and I managed to get the job. It was only a very small job, just an hourly rate, gardening, bit of a garden cleanup. I was so worried about my performance that I actually called my old boss and asked him to come down and check over my work.
Really?
And he drove down, and the customer happened to see him, and she came out and goes, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And he said, "Oh, I'm just taking a look," that sort of thing. So yeah, I started out, I was very timid in the beginning. Very, very timid.
Yeah, 100%. Well, if you're only 17 and you're starting your own business, especially a service-based business, you can imagine that it's going to be nerve-wracking. Like dealing with quite often probably, older people, I would assume. You wouldn't have had too many 17-year-olds wanting their fucking front yard landscaped, would you?
No. Most of our customers are a bit older, and especially back then, I definitely did get a lot of funny looks. There's been times where customers have walked out of their front door to greet me, and they've just looked at me and gone, "No, you're too young." First words out their mouth.
Really? They've actually said that?
Yeah, quote.
Oh, dude.
"Nah, you're too young." And we've managed to talk through and go, "Hey, look, this is what I've been doing in the field, so I've got this much experience in here," and then slowly worked our way through. That was probably, a few years in still, when I got into more landscaping and a bit more, hardcore landscaping with paving and lawn installs and fencing and all that sort of stuff. I started with the gardening, and then as we moved through that. I just went into the harder styles of landscape because that's what I was learning with my old boss at the time.
Yeah.
I always wanted to go into that, but I knew I didn't have the skills in the beginning, and I wanted to do something more than my 38 hours with my boss.
Yeah, of course.
I started up the gardening style round, and I had probably 15 or 16 mowing customers in there when I was when it was at its peak. And it's sort of fizzled out once I started to get the lawn installs and the paving works, because that's what I was aiming for to start with. So
was it something where, like, you know, at that age when everyone's asking you, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? How did this come about? Like, was that something that you'd enjoyed doing already, like even when you were younger, like you liked mowing your lawn at home, or, you know, was there something or did it just seem like something from a angle of like, I think I can turn this into a successful business? Like what kind of sparked it all?
So, well, my mum would tell you that I was always in the garden as a kid.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have picked myself to be the type of person to be working in gardens or around gardens. However, the moment that spurred it was, or the moment that changed the trajectory of my life was when my dad had actually called my old boss. They were friends. They'd gone thirds in an investment with another person, and my dad called this guy to get some information about the property that had sold, you know, a few years ago. It was for tax purposes and whatnot. And off the cuff at the end of the conversation, my dad said to my old boss, "Hey, my son Mitch, he's waiting to start uni. He's not doing anything. I know you got a business. If you're looking for anyone to give you a hand, you know, he's doing nothing." So the next day, Tim, my old boss, said, "Yeah, actually, I'm looking for someone for tomorrow." So my dad called me and said, "Hey, my friend Tim's got, you know, this business doing landscaping. Are you interested in taking a look at it?" I said, "Yeah, let's go." So he picked me up at, I think, 5:30 in the morning.
Jeez.
I was already sitting out the front waiting at 5:20. And he said to me when he picked me up, he said, "Geez, how long have you been sitting there for?" I said, "Oh, about 10 minutes." And he said, "You're the only person I've ever picked up that's been sitting there waiting for me."
Yeah, okay.
And I think after that, either that first day or the second day offered me a full-time position.
Wow.
Yeah, it says a lot, doesn't it, man? Like, cause we were literally talking to before when he got here about like how hard it is to actually find people that want to work these days.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
How crazy as well, though, that one off-handed comment has kind of shaped now a pretty massive chapter of your life.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you know, what would have happened if that phone call didn't happen? Maybe you're an accountant now. Like, who knows? You know, you probably would have ended up finding your way back to where you are now. But it's, you know, it's crazy to think about how, you know, that one moment in that phone call, you know, has pretty much shaped, as you said, the trajectory of a now a pretty large portion, a third of your life, really.
Yeah.
So when did things sort of kick off from the transition into what is now SA Premium Landscape? So obviously you were Mitch's Mowing and Landscaping, whatever it was, but then you've decided to do the rebrand. Obviously now you've got people even working under you. When did that kind of come to fruition, and how did that happen?
Well, there became a point in time where I realized that I valued the growth side of things. Initially, I thought, yeah, I'll work myself. Well, I'll work with myself and maybe one other person, and, you know, that'll be it. That'll be the story of Mitch. But there just came a time where I realized that I don't know, there was something driving me to push further, see what was doable for me in the industry, and so I just kept on pushing. And I can't remember exactly when the rebrand happened, but I remember that it happened because I wanted to make my company more about others and not so much about myself anymore.
Yeah.
So I took my name out of it. I took the mowing out because, you know, by that point in time, we'd stopped with maintenance and we were hunting down, you know, landscape jobs, paving, lawns, all that sort of stuff. And then maybe
what more bang for your buck in
exactly
actually putting the lawn in than keeping the lawn short.
Yeah, and that was always more challenge in that for me as well. I'm driven a bit by challenge too.
Yeah.
If I look at a problem and it seems difficult to solve, then I like to go in and give it a crack.
Yeah.
And all landscaping is a variety of different activities and tasks, and it's been a challenge to try to wrap my head around all of them and master them. And So I think that's probably what pushed me out of lawns as well. As I was always driven by that extra, challenge and problem solving.
Yeah, because you can't mow lawns for 20 years, like, you know what I mean? Or you can, but like, come on, you want to do something a bit more. You want to get like commercial contracts. You want to be able to do bigger things,
Yeah, I always push for more. It's always been part of my nature. It's always, nothing's ever enough, which is, it's a bit of a fault, but on the other hand, it's also something that spurs me on to move through and push through hard tasks. So, there became a time where we started to get reasonably busy. And my brother worked for me for about a year or a year and a half. We parted ways, and I had 2 others on at that point in time. So I started working to train those guys up. One of them's still with me now, and that's been about 3. I think he's about to hit 3 years.
Yeah, what an OG.
Yeah, he's literally an OG.
Yeah, that's sick.
And one of them's just left for another trade. So those guys stuck around for a good while, and they got to see and experience the growth of the business. And at that point, we didn't have any machinery either, so it was all manual labor. It was wheelbarrows, shovels, rakes,
landscaping without any fucking. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was hardcore.
Yeah,
I don't know how anyone does it.
And how big's the team now?
So we're at 5 now.
Yeah.
We were 6, but like I said, the other guy had left to do another trade. So we're at 5, and 5 seems to be a reasonably good number at the moment.
Yeah.
Especially for yourself, so because you like, if you were going to go like have more like 8, 9, 10 people, then it's like, all right, like your job goes from like actually being out on the tools or having direct oversight to just being people management.
Yeah.
And if that's something that you want to do, then fair enough. But like, I don't know, because you seem like the kind of person that wants to be out there as well. And if there's 10 people divided up to 10 different sites or 5 different sites, then it's going to get hard.
Yeah, it does become difficult. We attempted that at the start of the year, and I did find that I do like to be on site. I like to be around with the boys, and you get that camaraderie.
Yeah,
and you really bond better with your team that way. It doesn't become so. When you're with the team, you're kind of part of the team. But if you're trying to manage a team, it becomes that employer
versus manager type thing.
Versus the manager dynamic, and things become a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But at about 6 or 7, that 5 is the sweet spot where you can have your team all together, and then 6 to 7, you need to change the dynamic a little bit in this industry and get a supervisor and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's probably important though. Like, the big difference for you is that. Like you said, you took a little while off the tools and now you found yourself back on there. But like every time you're able to like listen to your body and kind of go, you know what, I need to have a break. And like I need to actually spend a couple of months just like organizing people, planning our next lot of jobs. And then your team gets the best of both worlds, right? Where like they know that if something happens with a job or whatever, that you're still able to just rock up on site and get it done, problem solve, do the stuff that you fell in love with initially, but then also, recognize and go either, I need a break personally, or this other part of the business and other side of the business needs my attention now. So I'm going to let you guys do that side and I'm going to go over here and do this. But that also helps your longevity, right? Because we've talked about this before, but how many, tradespeople that have not made the steps that you've made and put themselves in a position where they can actually make that and end up slaving away for some other person doing 60-hour weeks for 40 years of their life. And, they've still got 10 years to retirement and their body is just packing it in. Like they every day is a genuine struggle, but they know they've still got 10 years left before they can start, cashing in that super. The way you're doing it is going to give you a lot more longevity because you can recognize, hey, I've actually fucked my shoulder up, done something. I'm not just going to keep pushing through the pain because I don't have a choice. I'm going to take the time that I need, recover it properly, and my workers are going to understand, you know what I mean? Like we have that relationship where they know as soon as I'm feeling better, I'll be back out there helping them. And if I've got to hire a laborer or something to go and help them, they'll know I'll do that as well. Like all of those things, it gives you that power that, say, someone else who's just doesn't want to do the management side at all will just break their back for their whole life and, end up, sometimes on work cover or whatever it may be, just not able to handle it. Is that something that you find as well is part of what motivated you to move into that kind of leadership role, is to be able to control it more yourself?
Yeah. This industry, the landscape industry, is very hard, Jacker. It's pretty tough on the body. So part of that movement was to limit my time on the tools a bit, and I have been doing it for 8 years. And a normal work week for me, especially ages through 18 through to about maybe 23, was 80 plus hours
That's fucking wild, bro.
on tools. So
yeah, right.
You know, it's not it's not sustainable. It's just really not sustainable at the end of the day. Like you couldn't, I mean, people do, but it's not what I see myself doing is this trade on the tools 80 hours a week for, 40 years. So
yeah, but people probably do because they don't have any other option. Like they're not willing to take the risk to start a business or, study something that, doesn't involve any physical labor or anything like that. They just kind of like, all right, well, I'm stuck here. This is what I'm going to do.
And the reality is that those kind of hours, that's where, and what we're kind of, I guess, starting to see more understanding around now is that doesn't just impact your physical health. That starts to really impact the mental health as well, trying to string back-to-back 80-hour weeks, over an extended period of time. And, people never even really considered that part of it before, but that is a huge, mental toughness test to, get yourself out of bed at that ungodly hour, to then get home at that ungodly hour and do that again and again and again and, not see your family or whatever. Do you try and balance that well for your team now and try and keep the overall hours as low as you can whilst also making sure you're lining their pockets and doing well for the business? Yeah,
so I mean, I still am probably working 80 hours a week now.
Yeah.
But it's diversified over a range of different tasks. It's not 80 hours on tools. It's maybe 45 hours on the tools with the boys. They're probably working. They're definitely working 38 hours a week, and there's options for overtime if they want it. But everyone values a weekend every now and again as well. So I've got the flexibility. My team's able to work without me unsupervised for a period of time, so I've got the flexibility to be able to duck out from site. I'll say, hey guys, I'm going to do my quotes on a Wednesday now. It's something that needs to get done. It's the business side. It's, it's the back end, and someone has to do that.
Yeah,
to keep the jobs rolling.
Yeah, and a lot of those
the money coming in.
They probably would, but they wouldn't understand the depth at which you have to do to kind of keep that running. The business running is like the quotes and the finance and
the phone calls.
The phone calls, the back and forth with the government, like just all the bits and pieces, man. The licensing, the insurance, all that kind of stuff that people don't think about.
Yeah, there's a lot of back end stuff involved, and it's why people bring on admins.
Yeah,
because there comes a point when you just need someone else to take care of a portion of the business so you can focus on the strengths.
Yeah.
Are you doing all the admin stuff yourself at the moment?
We're just in the process of bringing admin on at the moment to do awesome. All of our job costing, payroll, sorting all the accounts and that sort of stuff.
Oh, that'll give you more time, man. Yeah, and that'll actually give you a bit more time because I want to talk about your latest project, Pot Plant Paradise, bro.
Yeah,
love it. So give everyone a rundown about Pot Plant Paradise and kind of what you want to see in the future of that.
Right. So I'll start with how Pot Plant Paradise was born. Pot Plant Paradise was born as a byproduct of the landscaping. Through landscaping, we were working with plants, and we noticed there was a little bit of a gap between wholesale plants and consumer buy prices for plants. So we thought, hey, look, this might be a little bit of a way we can help out the consumer market if we are able to buy at wholesale and sell in a little cheaper than the big name suppliers for consumer plants. We would, we might be able to do something here. We might be able to build another business out of something we already know. So it started like that, and then we engaged someone to build a website for us. And initially, it was only for outdoor plants. So this is an interesting part of the story. So it was. In my mind, when I devised the business, I thought, this is going to be for outdoor plants. The indoor plant scene hadn't even occurred to me.
Yeah.
And some sort of miscommunication occurred between myself and the website designer. And when she showed me the proof or the draft of the website, she'd populated all the pictures with indoor plants. And I looked at that and I thought, well, it's different, but I mean, hey, this is looking pretty cool. And then I started doing some investigation. I started doing some research and started asking some questions of people around me, and it turns out that the indoor plant scene was pretty big. So I thought, well, do you know what? Maybe we'll give this a go. So that's how it was born. It was born probably a year ago, and what we're seeing a lot of success with right now is hand delivering our plants to employees of businesses as gifts. We're working on some package deals that we can give to cafes, restaurants, all that sort of stuff. So there's a little bit in the works with Pot Plant Paradise at the moment.
Yeah, that's
well. So
killing
it has ended up being more a focus around indoors then. So it actually doesn't really coincide too much with the landscaping business. It's kind of like the knowledge helped, but the actual what the final product is and what you've really ended up focusing on is kind of like separate to the landscaping then.
Yeah, I see them as two separate things, two separate entities.
Yeah.
So, and I treat them that way as well. And they're different models. So with SA Premium, it's a trade. It's a service. It's very hands on. It's very, you got to be there with the customer all the time, talking, making sure everything's okay. Whereas Pot Plant Paradise, while it's still a service, it's also involving a product.
Yeah.
And there's probably less communication with customers in that business. And also we're mostly online. So we're 100% online. So the goal is that a customer is able to go onto the website, pick a plant and a pot that they like, and they'll be able to enter an address and we can deliver it out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm.
Yeah. And so again, it was just to recognize from, trying to piggyback off the knowledge that you already had. And what is like Ty said before, what's that sort of end goal? What would you like to see, if you could put your finger on something as like what the business is, that it basically runs itself as well so that you don't have to spend a lot of time? Is that kind of where you're like online only, we just have to worry about making sure the orders get out there and that the rest of it is pretty much handled from an online e-commerce store?
Yeah, ideally, and having the experience I've had in the landscaping industry where it requires a lot of customer interaction, I did plan to have Pot Plant Paradise as a business that would be less interactive.
Yeah. More light and fun, hey? Compared to something when you're like moving tons of mulch and dirt and shit like that. It's more like about like the smaller things, like a specific cactus or like just like a nice pot or something like that. Because I remember you saying recently that you wanted to go and get a whole bunch of different new decorative pots. You saw hundreds of different things in Melbourne and you were like so excited about all these pots and shit. Like it's just smaller, like more like elegant than I guess landscaping in that way.
It is. It's a bit more. Landscaping's fun, but the pot plant, the vibe that we're trying to build, the culture is based more around fun and decoration and that style of that sort of thing. We did find a bunch of new pots which we will be releasing pretty soon. Yeah, we found that in Melbourne when we went for a little trip over there. So we just need to get some photos of those and get that happening. At some point.
One of the things you mentioned as well was about, doing package deals for like cafes and things like that. That is such a cool thing to focus on because like you notice that now in every place that you go to, like there's such a focus around all of the like indoor plants is huge in that, and having a one-stop shop where you can go, and then that kind of leans back onto the landscaping and that design element and the stuff that you've obviously got the experience around. How do we take these products that I'm already familiar with and make this space look as good as possible, right? So that's where it kind of does come full circle and comes back on the landscaping, except you're helping them, change the landscape of the inside of a shop as opposed to their front or backyard. Is that something that you think, is that kind of why you've gone in that direction as well, is to kind of then bring it that full circle back into what your specialty is?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time indoors these days. Yep. And something that I found with Pot Plant Paradise is that we're able to bring a piece of the outdoors indoors. People are able to experience some of the outdoors inside their house with some indoor plants. And, the way we're trending is smaller backyards, smaller front yards, houses are bigger. So there's not a lot of greenery left sometimes in the yards. And it's nice to be able to instill some of that inside people's houses as well as outside 100%. At the same time.
Definitely. And it's the air quality and all that kind of extra benefits that it gives as well.
Yeah. Well, even like recently I was like, went to buy Erica flowers and I was like, I just bought her an indoor plant instead. And now the thing's like growing off its fucking dick and like, we love it. And I was like, because I just had this epiphany and they were like next to each other in the shops. And I was like, why am I going to buy these flowers that are just going to decay over the next week and then get chucked in the bin, rather than grab something that I bought 5 months ago and now it's just like growing, like we need to go and get a bigger pot for it, like, and I was just like this epiphany. So like, and I think that kind of like mindset as well is what a lot of people are going through with, like, you know, as the kind of world changes and we go through like, you know, what's a more sustainable, how do we use money more efficiently? Like, again, why would I spend $35 on this like massive bunch of flowers that's going to die than spend the exact same money on a plant that we could potentially have for 20 years of our life if you take care of it? Like, why wouldn't you spend your money on something that has more significance and has a way more longevity? So I think that mindset exists in a lot more people, and that's something that you guys can obviously capitalize on.
Yeah, and we're taking the same concept as a flower market or a flower supplier, except we're delivering the plant and the pot, and it's something that's able to sit on, you know, a table. It's able to sit on a desk at work. It could be delivered as a gift from a spouse or a partner, and you know, you're able to keep it on your desk at work, or, you know, on the mantelpiece at home. So there's a variety of different spots for it. And we are finding that a lot of people are opting towards indoor plants because they are lasting longer than flowers.
Yeah, especially like a cactus.
Yeah.
Like a spiky boy that'll just sit there and you don't barely even have to water them.
No, yeah, that's right. Only way you can kill them is too much water.
Too much water, They're gonna snap
So what's
off.
the inside of your house look like then? Is it
It
just...
is full of plants.
Yeah, I was going to say.
My partner Nicola, she's taken full liberty to our small nursery out the back, and she's just brought everything in that she wants. So we've got quite a large shelf which we bought specifically for plants, and that's probably got I don't know, 20 plants on it. If some of the plants in the nursery, if they're not coping too well out there because it's too wet or too cold, we'll also bring them inside. So we've got an array of plants that are, you know, kind of were in the sick bay outside, and now they're in the sick bay inside while we're nursing them back to you know.
Have you had one yet that's just grown so big that you're like, fuck, I can't get rid of this now. This is going to be, you know, like, do they get too big?
They get pretty big. Yeah, we've some of the plants that we've got at home at the moment we've had for probably 12-ish months, and we've been taking really good care of them, and they've probably tripled or quadrupled in size, and they're still in a small little pot. Like, they definitely deserve to be potted up, but we've just left them in their little pots. And
can you trim them back, basically cut them in half, or does it kill them?
No, yeah, you can.
You can?
Yeah,
okay.
You can trim them back, and for a lot of them, part of our TikTok videos that we will be bringing out is how to propagate some of our plants as well.
Sick.
So you can, some of them you're able to just cut the leaves off and almost stick them straight in soil, and they'll start to regrow little roots out the side. And but yeah, you can definitely cut them back. It does depend on what you've got, but your bigger branchier plants can be chopped back a little bit. Don't go too hard though.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about like those chilies down there that I've been growing. They're obviously off camera for everyone, but like that I was thinking about because one of them is bending over heaps big and the rest of them are kind of small. I was thinking about maybe chopping the top off.
Yeah,
but I don't know if that'll fuck it up.
Lighten the load a little bit.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to mess it up.
Yeah.
Your other option is to put a little bit of a stake in there and prop it up.
Yeah.
You don't want to kill its chili.
No. Especially if there's no chilies that have come off it yet.
Yeah.
Because I said as soon as it like gets some hot ass chilies, we're gonna do a chili challenge.
Oh yeah, we need to.
Yeah.
And the chilies that you grow at home are always hotter than the ones you buy at the shop.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, like I bought one of the seeds over there. It's called a 7-pot, and it actually grows brown chilies. So you know the shit's gonna be hot when it's not even red.
It's not even red.
Can't wait for that shit. We haven't like the Reaper sauce on a Reaper chip that we did. That was quite a few episodes. That was one of our early video episodes.
That was our 1 year.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
episode
so that's
50 something.
So we're 30 episodes since we've eaten anything spicy.
Yeah, we haven't done any challenges. We were supposed to do a beer challenge as well, weren't we?
It's meant to do many things.
We're meant to do many things.
How does the beer challenge go down?
I think we were just going to
taste it.
Just doing tastings.
Reviews. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Just to cleanse the palate and just see what they think.
Yeah, absolutely. We could do a wine test. There's plenty of things.
So many ideas. Now we're just spitballing podcast ideas
now
again.
we're just spitting.
So you were saying to me before that you're into, you've started reading a book, or you're into learning about like Tesla tech and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I do take a lot of interest in Elon Musk and Tesla and you know all of his stuff, SpaceX. I quite like the futuristic thought of AI and all those possibilities that we could go one day. Do you know, and there's a bunch of shows that are out, specifically Altered Carbon, where they, they're talking about living on chips and they can interchange bodies. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we were saying you can upload your consciousness to the cloud almost, and you were like, "Oh, I can't wait to do that." And I was like, "Hell no, I don't want to do that."
Yeah, I'm for that.
I'm
for that.
I don't know. I feel like the consciousness is also a part of your organic living. So if it's taken out of the organic body or the organic environment and put into a digital environment, is it still your same consciousness?
So this is where, like, for me, I've always had this, like, we're playing footsies under the table. Met him an hour ago, but we're getting real close now. It's something where, like, I'm so on the fence about it because, like, I'm so self-indulged that the idea of my amazing consciousness living on, like, beyond my organic body's lifespan is fucking awesome.
Do a stand up in the metaverse.
It's where the whole immortality thing comes in. And I used to be, like, so obsessed with that concept when I was a kid, like watching Mortal Kombat and, like, knowing that, like, Raiden and all these people are, like, immortals and they've been around for 10,000 years. And, like, that version of myself was like, yeah, I want to be that. But then as you watch movies and shows and that, like, address immortality and the whole thing of, like, you've actually got to then be alive through watching everyone you've ever loved die, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's the other side of the uploading your consciousness stuff that, like, I wouldn't want. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like the idea of, like, giving myself an extra fucking 30 years.
But not...
with my kids or whatever. Yeah. But then once, like, at a certain point in time, it becomes really depressing. And then, like, what? You've got to flick your own chip off? Like, what kind of...
can you... That's the thing. Once you've experienced thousands and thousands of years worth of, because the experiences that we go through are, like, Earth-based experiences. I'm sure there are a lot of other experiences we will and could have as our consciousness grows, right? But they're Earth-based experiences. How many people on their deathbed are sitting there going, like, you know what? I've done and I've been to, like, a lot of places in this world. I'm pretty content, calling it a day here. A lot of people.
Yeah, but if you've never had a taste of what could be, you may never know.
That's
right. You don't know what you're missing.
But then what happens when someone, like, hacks your fucking... So you've got your consciousness uploaded. Then they're able to access this fucking cloud that you've got it stored to. They take your consciousness, alter it a little bit, right? And all of a sudden you're meeting, like, some other, like, robot with a consciousness uploaded. You're like, I know that motherfucker. That's me, dude. Yeah. That's just me with a funny hat. You know what I mean? Like,
funny hat, yeah.
That's just me with an accent, dude. I know that consciousness.
And, like, you know how people always, like, never meet your heroes?
Yeah, dude.
Fuck. What if... Yeah, there's just so many things when it comes to,
It is. So is it just the... Because obviously we haven't gone down rabbit holes for a while.
We haven't. No.
This podcast started with a lot of conspiracies. Is it just really the like space exploration and AI? Is that, like, the only stuff that you're really interested in, or is there other parts of the whole, fuck the government, whatever? Like, what other stuff interests you?
Yeah. So, look, I'm into extraterrestrials, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I've done a bit of reading towards that. I'm still on the fence. I don't know.
Oh, what? Yeah. So you're on the fence whether they exist or not?
Oh, I don't know.
That's really interesting because most people we've had on have gone, like, nah, 100%.
100%. Even ones who don't believe anything 100%
else. Exist. I'm definitely leaning towards exist.
Yeah.
I think just statistically, it seems like it has to be possible that there's other things out there.
So what evidence points you to, like, them not being real?
Yeah, what makes you fence it a little bit? Just because we haven't really had anything.
We haven't had anyone that's,
The only thing is because we've had no definitive... Well, I mean, it depends who you ask, because people will say, yes, there is definitive proof. But there's not like, hey, here's an alien. We can see it right now.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's the same story goes, like, if I saw it with my own eyes, it would probably... then I would be 100% yes.
Yeah.
I'm probably at about 75% yes, 25% unsure.
Well, that's the thing. I haven't seen the Earth round with my own eyes, so maybe that motherfucker's flat.
Are you a flat Earth guy?
No, I don't. There's been a couple of arguments that I've heard that have been like, that's interesting, but it's the same with anything, right? Like, if someone frames it in the right way. But the reality is, it could be a fucking load of shit. Do you know what I mean? Like it very much could be. It could not be flat. It could be a fucking square. It could be a cube. It could be a fucking oblong.
Yeah,
we could be on an egg.
Earth.
We could be. Who fucking knows, dude?
I want oblong Earth to be true.
What are you guys' thoughts? What are your thoughts on the extraterrestrial situation?
Yeah, I mean, very much the same thing in terms of like if the universe is what we perceive it to be, that to think that we are so fucking special to be the only on the only planet, on the only organisms that can like support life is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot more possible that we are just tucked away in a pocket of it that hasn't been able to reach out far enough yet to find the rest of it, or that it has found us and it has been well kept under wraps. That seems the most logical to me, as opposed to, you know, that there's just nothing, that we are just this one little tiny planet just in this vast, you know, thing. Yeah. Unless we're a computer simulation, right?
Well, that's also another theory that people are throwing around. Have you heard about that with the whole how, like, you know, this could very well be a simulation, kind of like how we're building metaverses. It's kind of like on a, you know, the next level up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Because how does something in the metaverse
know what's in the metaverse?
Yeah. See, there's so many different theories. Here's a crazy theory though. What if the life that we live right now is we've worked out how to live for extended periods of time, but to do that, we're living a life now. When we die, we actually wake up from the previous one, and we've simulated a bunch of different lives. And every time you die, you kind of wake up from the previous one, kind of like
that Rick and Morty episode where you play that where they
that game.
Yeah, the game. Yeah. Is it Ron or Roy?
Yeah,
Roy. Yeah. And at the end, he like falls off the ladder, and he's like, "You went back there after getting cancer."
So good. I fucking love that show.
Rick and Morty blows my mind. My favorite bit from Rick and Morty across all of it. I haven't seen the new series actually, but like the bit where like he's got his UFO and it breaks down in like the middle of space, and he goes into his battery, and he's actually got a whole nother universe powering his batteries.
That's
which is the perfect thing of what we're kind of talking about. Is I think that's a good theory as well, man. Like it could just be that, you know, you just kind of wake, like your, as I said, the consciousness one ends and it just piggybacks straight into another that has no connection to each other whatsoever, and it's just that infinite cycle.
You've just learned how to stretch out the time by going like 1 year in the previous would be worth like an 80-year life.
Yeah.
And then you go, wow, that was a good 1 year, and then you go to the next one type thing.
Fuck. And that's kind of like then ties into about DMT and like dreaming and then actually smoking DMT and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people are saying, like I heard Pato, like my old housemate, he's like, I knew someone that smoked DMT one time, and he was out for 15 minutes, but when he came back to, he said that he was living in the land of the dinosaurs, right? And he was like walking around and like who he was, but in dinosaur period, right, for 3 years.
Wow.
And it was only 15 minutes that he was out for.
Far out.
That's crazy.
This is just a proper distortion of time, and even if it's not true, if that's what you believe happened, like that's what it will feel like.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a dream, really. Is a dream.
Well, that's where the DMT thing is weird as well. Like when you think about the fact that like when you do DMT, you're basically forcing your brain to do a portion of what happens when you die, right? So like when you do DMT, that stuff that, I'm not using the technical terms at all, but when you die, that gets basically flooded everything, every possible like portion of it happens. So it's like, and doing DMT myself, like, and I remember how intense that was, and I didn't even have that much.
Yeah.
So like, you know, I can't even imagine what that feeling is like, you know, when your time is done and you get that big like rush of that stuff in your brain.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of
like, that's got to be heaven.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's got to feel like and like, I even wonder like, is that what does like, if there's like another realm of like consciousness that sort of like sits like perpendicular to ours, and that's where, you know, if you kind of think about like the whole people that think of ghosts or psychics and all of those kinds of things, and whether or not like that communication between those two realms. So like when you take mushrooms or you go on these ayahuasca trips and all of these things, like you're able to like put cracks in or open the veil between that like consciousness or whatever. And then there's even like the other side of it when you look at like, you know, let's say that there's lots of different like planes of existence that exist on frequencies outside of our own.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Then you've got the whole like, devil worship and, doing evil to try and access, negative fucking frequencies or whatever as well. So like that's kind of like without having any tangible proof. That's the stuff that makes the kind of most sense to me about like why, people are able to tap into these things and have these experiences, both negative and good, because it feels like that there is like our plane of consciousness and frequencies. And then there are other ones that sit outside of that you can. We've always talked about like the dog whistle, like if there's frequencies like where, that we can't hear or that our eyes can't see or whatever, but they're there and that different things that we can do allow us to tap into them or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the kind of cool shit I think.
It's like opens the gateway sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's like all these studies of like near-death experiences and stuff like that where people, and then all the studies on like consciousness itself where people are going like, all right, well, it's not like people with brain damage like have a consciousness kind of similar to how it would be before or whatever. And like, I guess the going theory is like your brain's more like an antenna for consciousness, not the actual producer of consciousness. And then like you were saying with the different frequency levels is like you can then tune in, or like there are different planes of existence. Because if you think about it, like all of like Buddha and all of like the chakras and all that kind of stuff, they're all like vibrations.
Yeah.
Really, aren't they? They're like the lowest vibration is like fear, I think. And then the highest is like unconditional love and stuff like that. And then you're like vibrating on those frequencies.
Look at so much of like what was used when you look at early like wars and stuff like that. And how much of weaponry and all these things were designed around like frequencies. When they were trying to like create mind control, it was all about, electromagnetic, it was all about frequencies. What they use now, those big fucking LRAD tanks that they like were unleashing on Melbournians through the fucking pandemic. It's an large, long-range acoustic device that just basically sends out a frequency that makes people fucking feel like they're going crazy, they're going to shit themselves. Like, so, when you look about, again, the negative spectrum of that, and there's also this massive positive spectrum, and then we, on a general day-to-day, like, hover somewhere in between the really good and the really bad.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense that like, they talk about, the heartbeat of the earth and
the Schumann
waves and all of that kind of
like
shit.
7 hertz or something like that.
You look at how many things, music, different music and different things all come back to frequencies, waves, and movement. Like there's something to that.
Because that even then goes as deep. Do you know much about like quantum mechanics and stuff like that? Have you heard about the double slit experiment?
No.
So to try and like sum it up in like the best way that I can like remember, I'm like paraphrasing a lot here, but like essentially they did this experiment where they had a laser, right? And it was pointed at this like sheet of paper, right? Or like a wall, essentially, let's say. And then they had 2 blocks in between the laser, right? So when the laser was firing, you would expect the laser to get through the middle of the 2 blocks, but then it wouldn't pass through the actual blocks itself. So, and they were measuring the wall behind it, right? So when you measure the wall behind it, you'd think, all right, between the 2 blocks, you'd have where all the lasers are hitting, right? But they actually found that the laser was hitting behind where the blocks were blocking off as well. So instead of having a pattern where it would go 1, 2, 3, it was having 5, and it was like going behind the blocks as well. And essentially, like what they came to the conclusion is when like light or photons are being measured, right? They act as a wave, not as a particle.
Oh,
yeah. So basically, it's almost like saying that anything that you can't measure right now technically doesn't exist.
Far out.
Yeah. Which is why, because then that links into the theory of
in the simulation
we're all one. So like because we're all one, everything's always being measured. Well, not everything, but a lot of things are always being measured. So that's what creates reality to a certain degree. And if something's not being measured, then at that point in time, it doesn't exist.
Wow.
So
that's boggling to the mind.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like,
well, there is such a weird, like, we talk about it all the time. Like, it's such a basic thing, but like there's so many weird like connections between human beings. Like, the whole, when you yawn, you make other people yawn, how we all have the same dream, like similar dreams. Like we can all talk about the dream where we rock up to a place without pants, like we realize we've got no pants on, or that feeling of falling, like, and then you wake up right before you hit the ground. Like again, that there is a shared consciousness thing that exists with everyone. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many similar people know what that feeling of like getting goosebumps is, and like it's like something exists to make us all connected like that.
It has to be, man.
The other common one is you feel like you can always tell when someone's looking at you. Like if you're looking at someone, they could be looking down at their phone and then they just look straight at you. Like they knew that you were looking at them the whole time.
So crazy. I've always had my mind blown about that. Like that weird just ability to sense that. And even like, you know, sometimes like you will be walking straight ahead and I'll have like noise cancelling headphones on and I can tell someone's like now all of a sudden walking behind me like 20 paces back even. How the fuck could I tell that like, and again, if that, is it the vibration like and frequencies of the fact that they're walking behind me and I can feel that? But like, how did I know? I couldn't hear them because I've got fucking music cranked loud, but I knew. I turned around, I'm like, yeah, there was someone there. Like that's such a weird,
it has to be another sense.
Connectivity, yeah.
There could be merit to that though, the theory that we're all connected in some way. Because you think about like the way that we act now, like we're more connected now than we ever have been, like with all the social media and stuff. And everybody's got like this need to be like connected with people all the time, 24/7. So could be stemming from the fact that we're already partially connected.
Yeah. And I think, you know, again, getting into the kind of conspiratorial side of it, that's where the whole, like, we are more threatening to people in power when we realize that connection, right? So if you think about like all the kind of shit that's happened over the last 100 years with all the wars and world wars, like everything was about how do we make these people as divided as possible. When you remember growing up, oh, fuck the commies, fuck the whatever, like everything, our parents just grew up being taught to hate other groups of people that were different. That's where racism all stemmed from. Like, obviously it goes back way further than that, but what's ingrained into our life and what we've seen from our parents and our elders all comes from that, like anything to possibly make that group of people different, worse, bad than you. And we're finally getting to a point where, the world is so multicultural now in most places, right? That, you know, I grew up and went to school with, you know, so many different, so like I never saw the world through those lens, and now, you know, that exists by everyone. We're dangerous to these people in power now when we're like, well, I don't fucking hate all the Middle Eastern people like you tried to get me to hate after 9/11. I don't hate all of the Russian people now who are fighting with Ukraine like you're trying to make me. Like, they're all just human beings that are being dictated to or led by these fucking massive power hungry whatever, like, but they're just human beings that I have a connection with. That if I was in the same room with him and I fucking yawned, they're gonna yawn too. Like, we are one. We have the same fucking dreams, like whatever. Like we want to be with our family. Like, why would I think that they're the only reason that these people become bad is when the people that were leading them were bad themselves. Like, that's the fucking problem.
100%. Do you, like, have you ever had this like urge basically to go, either of you, I had this urge to go to like another country to just kind of like see the people? Like, I know that might sound strange, but it's like, you're not going there. Like, what's always fascinated me is Russia. For some reason, it's just always just been like, what's so different about Russia? Like, it's always been, Russia's always been that thing that's just like in the like in the dark in the corner.
Yeah.
And I'm so like curious because like every YouTube video, there's this one YouTuber called Bold and Bankrupt. I've been watching his stuff for years. It's so good. Like, he's just a dude who just goes around, like he did a massive like Eastern Bloc kind of run there where he was going to Belarus and Russia and all these places. And like they once again, they're just people. Yeah. They're literally just people.
Yeah. Like, it's all blown up, isn't it?
Yeah,
Stuff gets blown up and portrayed in certain ways, but...
Yeah. Afghanistan, Iraq, like all that kind of stuff. You'd be led to believe that you'd step foot off the plane there and your head would get blown off, but it's just not the case.
It's just not the case, yeah. In fact, the most people that were getting their heads blown off were the people that lived there by the US government who were fucking invading their land. Like, they were the most dangerous people to that country. You know, I remember one of the first things that, like, after, you know, we've talked about this quite often, but for me, like, the thing that kind of, I guess, woke me up to my frustrations with governments or whatever was 9/11. Like, you know, and it was just me smoking weed and my mates were like watching fucking 9/11 documentaries, and I was like, man, some of this shit's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
But I remember there was another like really distinct moment of like, I had to stop and look at this and really think about it. Was there was like a slide of photos of like Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan before and after 9/11. and like the same streets. So it was like a photo of the exact same street, and on the before photo, there's like plants and landscaping and you know the buildings are all beautiful and there's people walking down the street and it's just a place. It's a town like anything other. And then 10 years later, all the buildings are crumbling. No one's on the street. There's tanks. There's fucking whatever. And like you can tell that it's the exact same landscape. And you're like, we were over there to like liberate these people. Yeah. And that was so like jarring for me again, because like I'm not someone who bought, even before I was awake, let's call it, I never bought into the whole these people or whatever. Like it just seems so reductive to me to think like that of other people. So when I put myself in that position of like, imagine, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but imagine someone coming over here in the name of like saving us. Yeah. And then all of the Adelaide City and, you know, Melbourne and whatever has just been fucking bombed to shit because they're targeting our extremists here. And we're supposed to then thank the people who have been responsible for it for saving us.
Yeah, you're not going to be too happy, are you?
No. And why wouldn't we then be radicalized, as they would call it? Why wouldn't we want to go over there and do fucking, like, how can you be like, oh yeah, all these but you created more extremists and more whatever by like destroying the infrastructure, everything for these places. And then half the time you'd left all your weapons and left all your equipment behind, and then wondered why they ended up being more insurgents or whatever. Like, it's just... So I think the core of it is like, I just try to promote, and we do it through here with even just the low-level mental health stuff, but like that understanding that everyone is just another human being. I think that's such an important message.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
And it sounds like for you as well that it kind of echoes through, you know, you mentioned before the podcast, you were just like, I want to make sure I like, you know, give a shout out to my team at SA Premium Landscapes, like whatever. Like that's, you know, and you being honest and saying like, you know, there's some things that I, you know, could have done better that. And what I mentioned before we recorded was like, that's such an amazing thing to have at 26 years old. Not only the things that you've achieved in terms of being an entrepreneur, but to have that kind of self-awareness, to not let it go to your head and just be like, you know, here's my evaluation or whatever else. Like that's going to make you, I'm sure, a great boss and make you very successful in the future, man. I'm sure you would agree as well.
Oh yeah, definitely, man.
Hopefully that's part of the goal, is to become a good leader and to hopefully learn how to train other people to be leaders as well. I think that'll be helpful for society and, you know, just helpful for other people's lives in general. You know, you should help as many people as you can. And
fucking oath. It's the reason why we do this too, really. Yeah. Part of the reason anyway,
Yeah, I mean, you guys are doing a great thing with the mental health stuff. It's a big thing. You know, it's a big thing in young men, and I'm sure a lot of people experience. I've experienced bouts of mental health, and a lot of people have, and it's one of those things that needs to be talked about. It needs to get out in the open so people aren't bottling it up and just letting it sit and fester, and that's when it keeps getting worse. And you know, it never gets better if it's not talked about.
Well, it's where, again, like, and I did want to ask you about this as well, but for bosses like yourself or people in that, like you promoting that with your own workforce and whatever, and being like, hey, talk to me about whatever's going on, we'll find a way through it. That hasn't happened for the majority of most of our parents' lives or whatever.
Even our lives, man.
Even our lives, right?
Yeah,
So
I agree.
It really is up to people like yourself to change that dynamic and to make people like, you know, if one of your workers can come to you and go, I'm honestly just like having the worst day. I'm not sick. I'm not injured. I just need this one off. Do you reckon there's some way you can, you know, fill this in? And I'm just going to do nothing today and I'm going to come back raring to go tomorrow. If you go, absolutely, mate, and thank you for being so honest and not saying you had gastro or some bullshit and telling me that what you're going through. Take 2 days if you need to, I'll sort it out. Now, again, you might not always be in the position that you can be that flexible, but even one time doing that next time they're feeling a little bit run down, they're more inclined to go, I'm going to fucking drag myself through today because Mitch is a fucking legend, and, you know, they end up feeling better about then, you know what I mean? Because that one time where you were like, whatever you need, man, that just doesn't happen still in so many industries. You know, the amount of people that are guilted into rocking up, you're going to let the whole fucking team down, you're going to whatever. So not only are you already going through something that's led you to feel like you couldn't go in that day, whether it's mental or physical, and then your boss decides to pile on the pressure, the anxiety by being like, well, we're fucked if you don't rock up today.
Yeah.
It's not your fault that there's not enough resources or whatever, do you know what I mean? Like to be able to cover you so that you can have most of the time what you're entitled to.
Yeah.
Nothing shits me more than a boss. It's if you've got 10, say, sick days a year and you're at day 25 and then your boss decides to be like, mate, what's going on? Completely understandable because there is a difference between, unless there's really, genuine medical and you're providing the evidence.
Of course.
But if it's clear that you're starting to take the piss, I understand again, you've got to be a bit like, mate, it's coming on.
Yeah.
But if you've not taken one in 6 months and then the first day you're like, this or whatever, and they go, oh, well, we're fucked if you don't rock up. How do you not realize the catastrophic effect that you can have on someone's mental health?
It actually goes the opposite way when you say stuff like that to your employees and to other people, because it puts more pressure on them, and that will worsen the state. So there needs to be more supports in place. That's what I believe, anyways.
Definitely.
Helping
sick
people.
leave, I think.
Sorry, go on.
So I was just going to say a part of sick leave.
Yeah, part of sick leave, and I mean, the key is honesty. Like if you have an open communication, you can talk to one another about what's going on. Like, because from both perspectives, if you're, things can get mixed up and miscommunicated. It just needs to be open channels to talk about it, and that way, you can try to put supports in place for people, and you can come up with some sort of a plan. I think that's also key, is having some sort of a plan, because that gives people goals to work towards, and then that gives them some sort of incentive maybe, and then. Instead of just spitting the dummy at employees, it never gets anyone anywhere.
No, because it lowers the whole team morale.
Every employer is guilty of doing it every now and again. It's not ideal, and you wish you could take those things back. But open communication. I would encourage anyone in an employer position to be with any employees to be doing maybe once a month meetings, just one-on-ones. Just take some time out. That's what we try to do. We try to get them in every month, just a one-on-one, see how everybody's doing.
That's awesome, yeah.
Touch base, how's your month been? How's things inside of work, outside of work? Is there any things that we need to tweak? You need to keep in touch with people and speak to them about how they're feeling.
And that doesn't happen in service industries like yours very often, if at all.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, unless it's a one-on-one because you fucked up and that's the only time.
Yeah.
And then then it becomes a fearful thing as well, right? If someone's like, oh, we need to have a chat after work, well, you're fucked, like something's gone wrong. Whereas like, with that kind of stuff, they can look forward to it, to be like, hey, yeah, we get to sit down, we're going to go for a coffee this day before we start, or whatever it is that you kind of do. It makes such a difference, man, especially when you can have that conversation and go, we don't even have to talk about work. If work stuff's fine and there's nothing you want to bring up, what's been going on? I remember you mentioned this, this thing to me at this time, and they're like, wow, he remembers the conversation we had a month ago or whatever it may have been. It makes such a difference. And I've said this all the time, man, like work isn't what motivates me. People motivate me, right? So like when I've got a leader that leads from the front, I will work my absolute fucking ass off, because I'm like, if you're going to set the tone, then I'm going to match the tone. I'm going to even try and exceed the tone. You know what I mean? Like, whereas any job that I've had where I can tell that the boss is doing anything humanly possible to do the bare minimum, my motivation just goes out the fucking window, and it's so hard for me to drag myself out of bed in the morning to work for someone who I know is getting paid more to do less.
Yeah.
And it just makes such a difference. And like you said, you being like, oh, I want to have that camaraderie. And that's not just your own, selfish. You would be able to see the impact that makes on your workers by leading from the front.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we're all going to work every day. You got to try to make it as a happy place for people, because if you want people to be there, well, they're spending a chunk of life. Yeah, your company doing stuff, spending their hours of their life that they're not going to get back. So,
especially if they're doing fucking overtime or like a Sunday or something like that, and they're sitting there or they're out there on the fucking tools grinding away. Last thing they want to be doing is while they're doing that, they're digging that hole, they're like, oh, fuck Mitch, man. What, you know what I mean? Like, that's the last
thing. He has no idea what we're doing out here. Like, rocks up on site and starts telling us this and that. Like, he hasn't been on the tools in fucking 3 years. Like, all that kind of shit, which does exist. The amount of times that I've heard my mate be like, my fucking supervisor wouldn't know a hard day's work if it fucking bit him on the ass. That sentiment exists by the thousand.
Oh, yeah. Any industry too.
Yeah, because a lot of people do get in that position of power and go, yeah, fuck it, that's me done, Yeah.
And it's even in like your case, man, It's like you're getting flooded with all these fucking complaints and all that shit, and it's just like the resources aren't there, the staffing isn't there, and you're sitting there on a fucking Sunday after going away for a weekend having to fucking grind away because
just to make my life easier.
Yeah, it's just come on, man. Just like people at the top can take, They got a $16 million salary. Just take a couple of milli off the top and just give it to some new people, man. It's not like you don't need $16 million.
No. Yeah. When I used to work at Faster Pasta, my first ever job was at Faster Pasta.
Fuck yeah, dude, love
It was an OG.
The old dish pig.
Which store was it? The
Golden Grove.
Golden Grove.
Yeah, Golden Grove.
Okay,
I had various other small cash in hand style jobs when I was younger and whatnot, but that was my first proper throw a resume in, get a little interview style. And I used to be the dishy, so the dishy does everything. We wash all the dishes, we do all the cutlery, we restack the cutlery. We have to supply. We had to top up all the bay. So the chefs have a bunch of ingredients in the middle. If you've ever been to the store, you would see it in there. Like you can see the kitchen and whatnot. Yeah. So it's the dishy's responsibility to go. Or the chefs go, spinach, and you go, grab spinach, top up the spinach, and then you go back, grab a couple of pans, you start scrubbing. They go, I need onion, and you go, onion or whatnot, and they go, come on guys, it's all a team effort here, we've got to keep on working. And then it comes 9 o'clock when the kitchen shuts and we're left with 100 pans, and they're out the back, they were smoking cigarettes and going, hurry up, we need to go home. So you've been at the bottom, and now you're running something, you're just like, all right, I've got that perspective. You've got the perspective. It was to the point with the resources and whatnot, and people with the team efforts and taking that power when they've got it, and just not doing anything.
Because imagine if even on once a week or twice a week, instead of the chefs outside punching darts and talking shit, one of them just came in and was there scrubbing it with you.
Yeah, you would just be like, oh wow, what a legend. He doesn't need to be doing this any years. Makes all the difference.
Oh yeah.
There was only one chef that ever did, and he used to come in and help me finish up all the cutlery, and he would do, because you'd have to clean the entire kitchen when you were done as well. So he would get started on cleaning all the kitchen stuff. He was a good bloke.
Fuck yeah.
So and you remember that for a reason. Yeah, that's the one that's memorable.
Exactly.
So I guess before we get into the questions, for anyone if there's someone who's a young lad that wants to start a business, is there anything what are your kind of the really key lessons 8 years into it now that you've learned that you wish you knew back then, or that you would want someone who is in your position, or even now at 30 is thinking, you know what, I've always wanted to start it? Is there any real key thing that you would tell someone?
Just keep going. When it gets tough, it will get tough, and you just have to keep pushing through that. Perseverance is key in those times. You probably have to think about why you want to do it, and what backing you've got in terms of why am I actually doing this? That should be your strength, and that should be your driving force. And once you get that right, you can probably conquer anything. They said, he who has any why can conquer any how. Keep on pushing. Just keep going.
Good,
I fucking like that a lot.
So good.
That's killer. That's
awesome, man. And I guess as well, from you mentioned your own mental health. Is there anything there that you would give to someone who's running their own business and is feeling up against it? Is there anything that's really worked for you in terms of keeping your head above water when times have been tough?
So in my situation, what worked for me was just asking for help. And a lot of people go, no, I can fix it myself. And I went through that same situation, and I put a time limit on it though. I said, if in X amount of months I've tried to fix the way I'm feeling and it's not working, I'm going to seek some extra help. And that's just what I did. And, I spent a good 2 years seeing a therapist to sort out some things. And that's the best thing I ever did, because I can think clearly now. I was so clouded before, you can't think straight. It's debilitating. You don't want to get up. You can't get up. You're at work, but you don't get anything done. It just kills the productivity. And so don't be afraid to ask for any help at all. Definitely go and get some help if you need it. Ask your friends, ask your family. The first step to sorting it out is to, allowing yourself to believe it's there and get straight to fixing it.
Yeah, man. That's powerful.
That's so amazing that what you've said as well. And I think that, that is something that would have been so taboo or whatever to even admit what you've just said, to say, I've been, and go do it. That's so important to make it so feel so effortless, which it's not. It is a tough thing to do.
It's very hard.
For you to make it sound like, you know what, I gave myself a time limit, and when it didn't pan out, I've gone and got help, and it's the best thing I ever did. Those, like, the chapters of that is just so important to be like, well, hey, and you being like, now I can think clearly. The amount of people that are suffering from exactly what you just said, where like there's so much going on, the noise is just like unrelenting, and it then impacts your ability to do the job at the best that you possibly can, or be a manager at the best you possibly can, or sleep as good as you need to recover.
Yeah.
All of those elements are affected if you leave that unchecked.
Yeah, and it affects all your relationships as well, with your family, your spouse, your friends. So
yeah,
definitely get it checked and look into it.
How many people have, like, you know, that have the irrational anger or whatever, like, you know, and it all stems from because there's just things that have never been addressed. And when they go and do that work, and all of a sudden their quality of life and the quality of their relationships and everything just increases tenfold because they've worked out, why do I feel like this? Why do I react like this? Why do I behave like this?
Yeah,
well, it's because of insert fucking childhood trauma or whatever it is that pretty much everyone has, but it just sits there, festers, like you said before, under the surface, and
it bubbles. It just bubbles away slowly, and then it'll come out.
Yeah,
it'll just come out. It'll pop its head
it'll
out.
cause bigger problems than if you just like accepted it.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to you now being able to be like, you know, your worker comes and goes, hey, mate, I'm in a bad position. Do you care if, like, over these next couple of weeks, like, I want it, the only days I can get in to see a therapist, is there some way we can work around it? Because you've got that lived experience, you go, yeah, mate, we'll figure it out. Leave it with me. We'll try and figure it out, and we'll work, and we'll get it happening. You know, could you possibly do it here, and here with this work? Can you speak to them and they come back and you negotiate it? Because you're like, I want my worker to feel the best. I want him to have the clarity that I've now got through going through that process. And if me as the boss can support him in doing that, everyone wins, right? So, but someone who hasn't got that or hasn't gone through that, the person below them isn't going to feel as comfortable to come up and go, hey, do you try and be honest in that with your workers as well? Like, do you have a pretty open book policy about what you're going through? Because there's so much power in, like, seeing your boss as a human being as opposed to like a figurehead of power.
Yeah.
I would say in my situation that it doesn't get delved into too deeply, but my focus is mainly, like, when we have our one-on-one meetings, it's mostly on the boys to make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, at the crux of it, I believe that everyone deserves to have a happy life. So
yeah, man.
I try to put supports into place because, you know, it's easy to let someone go and just say, nah, don't worry about it, and let the next person deal with that. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, that's another human being and they need to have a happy life as well, just like everyone. So,
and then it could be that you going, you know what, like, this just isn't working, man, pack your bags, is, well, the straw that breaks the camel's back. And, like, if I ever did that to someone, man, I could never forgive myself.
Yeah.
Like,
and it does happen. You know, that's the thing. You know, that people that just have no awareness of the impact of their, you know, comments, decisions, thoughts, whatever, it just creates more problems, you know, and the ripple gets bigger with that, man. But honestly, thank you so much for all of that, man. It's really amazing, and you should be super proud of yourself for not just what you've achieved at the age that you're at. I can't only imagine the next time you come on Wormholes, you're probably going to be fucking running 23 companies. It's going to be crazy. If that's what you're doing by 26, man. You've got a very bright future ahead of you, and if you keep those same principles that you've got now, I can imagine that you're going to have a long and very happy career, man. So yeah, you should be super, super proud. I've only just met you 2 hours ago. We're playing footsies under the table, man. I'm a big Mitch fan, bro.
Thanks for the kind words. I do appreciate that.
Fucking oath. All right. Well, before we dip in, I want to do Song of the Week.
Yes, we've missed it.
We've forgotten. We got this little segment called Song of the Week.
Oh, no.
And it's.
Are you a music man? Do you love music?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have the fucking Makita fucking thing on site cranking?
It's the most important tool on site.
Yeah, it really is, eh?
Music makes such a difference.
Oh, bro, 100%, 100%.
It is just so important to be able to, and like, it just adds a fucking, again, the frequency. You've got that going over above the tools, or when the tool finishes for a second, you hear the fucking ban it in the background.
You do
gets you through,
you do need some beats for sure. Yeah, brings the team together.
Oh yeah, definitely. So hit us with what have you been playing the most this week? Has there been anything that's on repeat?
Even just personally, when you're in the car, doesn't have to be on site. Just something that you've been jamming in the last week or so.
If I'm honest, I don't really listen to the music when I'm in the car, just podcasts. So,
I'm such a culprit for that now as well.
Podcast and audio book type guy. But I have to say, I don't know what the song's called, but there's one that is getting hammered on TikTok at the moment. They play it on Fresh. It seems like it's every second song.
Oh, how's it? What are the lyrics? How's it go?
Do you want to dance, baby? Have you heard the one? That's the worst.
It's the first time someone's saying something of the week. I'm so happy about
We
that.
cut that out.
That's so good. No,
I need to find the TikTok. I'm gonna we're gonna.
Yeah,
Can you
we'll
actually
find it.
add the sound
Yeah,
on
we'll
top
put
of
that
my
up
voice?
and we'll be like, it's that song, and then you'll sing that little bit, and then we'll go into the song.
Then we'll go into
And
it.
we'll go fucking viral.
We'll
dude.
find it,
Don't
bro.
worry.
We'll find it. We'll find it. All right. So, unfound TikTok song is your song of the week.
Yeah, it has to be, I think.
Love
It's just
it.
getting hammered everywhere.
We'll find it. We'll hunt it
And
down.
everyone turns the radio up as soon as it comes on.
Yeah?
They keep cranking it, yeah.
Fuck yeah, killer. All right, James, we'll hit us with yours.
I'm still trying to pick mine, so you go
All
with
right.
yours because
Okay.
I did have one in mind, but I can't remember what it was now.
Okay. All right. Well, my song of the week, I've already got mine sussed, is Sleep Talk by Dayseeker.
You do
So-
love a bit of Dayseeker.
So, yeah, but you know the thing is I've only kind of in the last 6 months have I actually gotten around Dayseeker. Like, I heard this song in 2019 when it first came out, and I was like, yeah, it's cool. Well, I heard this album, should I say. Yeah, it's cool, but it's like, I don't know, it just didn't jump out at me. And then they released one a couple of months ago called Neon Grave, and I was like, this slaps. Like, this is heavy, it's catchy, it's fucking like everything you want in a heavy song. And then literally a couple of days ago, like it just Sleep Talk came on shuffle, and it was just like, it's not heavy or anything like that. I mean, it's still a hardcore song, but it's compared to, you know, a heavy song, it's not. It's just so catchy, dude. Like, just so catchy. Like, the melodies are just unbelievable.
You love a bit of catchy groove as well, don't you?
I do love
It has
catchy
to be
groove.
stupid heavy. I got mine. I remember what it is now.
Go on, hit
Shout out to Sedative, another Perth band who's reached out to jump on the pod.
Yeah.
Remember, we went and listened to, after they messaged us, we listened to it through the laptop speakers, which, again, sounds good, but it's not the full experience.
It's not the full experience.
But
yeah.
their song, the breakdown came on through the laptop speakers, and we were like, "Oh god damn!" Well, when I left after that night, I put it on in the car to listen to it through a bit more fucking oomph. The song's Ramilda Vane or Varney or something. I don't know. I'm probably butchering the name, but yes, that song slaps, and I'm excited to get those guys on the pod. So
That'd
shout
be
out
great.
to Sedative from Perth. Perth, we're getting the Perth love, man.
Yeah.
Most of our
That's
guests
awesome.
that we've done on a Zoom call have been Perth.
Yeah, I don't know what it
Which is
that.
fucked now that it's daylight savings. So like we got to start the pod at fucking 11 p.m. so that it's a reasonable time for those
It's going to have to be
motherfuckers. But,
Saturdays.
I mean, we can do a fucking. Well, those guys, I think we've got one booked with them. I think they're like, yeah, we can jump on from 6, so that's only 8:30,
That's all right.
so
Yeah,
that's not too bad.
That's okay.
But yeah, that's
All
my
right.
song of the week.
Fucking love it, man. Love
And that
it.
means it's time for
The
guestions.
Guestionos. All right.
you hit him with number one,
All
my
right.
man,
I'll
on the
hit
theme
him.
of music.
On the theme of music, what is your favorite song of all time?
Oh, wow.
I love that reaction.
We're gonna do a hypercut one day
Yeah,
where it's
of
like
all
everyone's
the-
reaction to that.
Yes, what a good idea.
Oh, wow.
Man.
Fuck.
Yeah, the fucks.
Yeah, I don't even think I could tell you.
Nah, okay.
Wow.
Well, what about top 3 then?
Yeah, could you give us a couple? Surely something comes to mind as like a pretty high
Something that's been on my mind a lot lately that seems to be coming on a lot. I feel like it's coming on a lot. It's an old school tune. It's Holiday by Green Day.
Yeah.
So it's a good old one. I like that.
Yeah.
I played that in my school band
Yes.
in year 9, dude.
What'd you play? What instrument?
I was drums.
Cool. I played drums too.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
Oh, a couple of drummers
A couple
in the
of
room.
drummer. I wouldn't consider myself a drummer anymore. I can
Yeah.
basically do fucking boom boom like fucking rock beats now
Yeah,
with
yeah,
a double
yeah.
kick and the occasional fucking do-do-do and go back into the beat. That's the extent of my knowledge.
It's still pretty
now.
good though.
My wife's literally over here laughing at me, being like, "Yep, that's all we can
is
do."
that a fib? Is that a fib? Oh,
No, but I'm not like
she's having
you're
it up.
downplaying.
The thing is, I go on TikTok and I see the fucking. There's like a 7-year-old prodigy who's
Yeah,
like
but
playing
those-
fucking blast
You
beats.
can't compare yourself to
Nah.
a prodigy though, bro. You think about how
Yeah, but how
depressed
many
I'd be.
fucking 7-year-old prodigies are there? There's like 40,000 of them.
If you think
now.
drums are bad, you should see guitar prodigies.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah,
That makes
Some-
me fucking depressed.
when they're just fucking playing the most
Yeah,
ridiculous.
playing with their
math
tongue and
chord.
shit. You're just like, fuck's
Yeah.
sake, like.
Well, there's a guy from I forget his name now, but there's a guy from Adelaide who was in quite a few bands that has no hands. You ever
Really?
remember that guy?
No.
He was one of Pato's mates as well.
Oh.
Fuck, I can't remember what band he was in, but he has no hands, tapes the drumsticks, like has things where these drumsticks are
Yeah.
taped to his thing
Wow.
and plays the drums.
That's unstoppable.
That's
man.
tight.
What excuse do I fucking have to only be playing rock beats?
You could just be like noise.
When this dude has no
noisy.
fucking hair.
Yeah.
Insane.
Oh, fucking oath. Do you want to hit him with number 2 then?
Question number 2. Who is your favourite comedian or comedic actor?
Oh, I don't think you could go past Carl Barron, surely.
Yeah, so we haven't had Carl Bazzer, I don't
Have we
reckon.
not had Carl Barron?
Not as a favourite comedian answer.
It's either him or Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart's got some good content, but Carl Barron is probably the first comedy style I ever got introduced to, like as a young person, and I was like, yeah, this guy's funny.
Me too.
Because he's Aussie. He's Aussie, so
yeah,
he's
a bit more relatable in that way.
So relatable. And he has a brand of comedy that was like he was the first, you could watch him as a young kid and it wasn't too intense or whatever. Yeah. Because like even I think back now, like my dad showed me Delirious like way too early now that I think about it. Like I wouldn't be showing Winston fucking Delirious at 10 years old.
Yeah.
And now that's probably why I'm the fucking filthiest comedian myself.
Legit.
Watching that shit. But yeah, I literally am on the hunt. My dad's hopefully got them for me, the first 2 Carl Barron DVDs, because they were just amazing, dude.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this on the pod before, but in his second one where he does the Irish teacher, do you know that bit where he does like he remembers this Irish teacher from school that he couldn't understand at all? That bit is one of the first memories I have of like losing my shit laughing hysterically to the point of like hyperventilating. That's probably my earliest memory of doing that, where I'm like thought I was going to die from like suffocating on a laugh.
How good is like actual laughter to the point where you're like
can't
physically
breathe.
Hurt?
Yeah,
it's good.
Oh, like, there's only been a very few times in my life.
It's such a good release as well, though, when you get a proper laugh.
Yeah,
like that. That's good.
It is. It feels incredible. There's another one that I can off Bo Burnham's second to last special.
Yeah,
and there's just a line in a song that I just did not see coming. Erica was asleep next to me, and I was like, like gasping for air. She was just knocked out like a light, and I was like couldn't believe how fucking funny this thing was.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
shit. She would
like, who's the Joker right now? Just fucking laughing maniacally. It was so funny.
Have I ever told you about like this is the one like hearty ass fucking laugh that I can remember, right? Have I ever told you the story about Plugger?
I don't think so.
Oh, you would remember if I had. I won't tell it now because it's a long story, but we'll bring it up we'll remember to bring it up when it's just you and me one time.
Okay, all right.
Because, oh my God, it's this guy who just, like, long story short, right? He pulls up on our driveway and rips a huge burnout, and we don't know this guy, right? So we'll get back to...
What a fucking cliffhanger.
Yeah,
to come
we'll
back
get back to one
story.
day, but the Plugger story, man. That was one because his non-player is Plugger.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Amazing.
But,
question number 3.
Question number 3. Have you ever meditated before?
Yeah. Actually, I meditate almost every morning.
Yeah?
Part of my routine is half an hour in the morning. Almost as soon as I get up, I'll get dressed and I'll go out and sit in winter, I go turn the heater on and I sit in front of the heater on a chair and I sit there for half an hour and I think about various different things. Or my meditation for me is any silent moment. But that's a specific time that I set aside every morning. Yeah. Depending on what I've got going on is what I'll be thinking about, or if I think about just nothing. But every morning, half an hour is my little meditation time.
That's so good. I
value
actually dedicate time.
Yeah, I think it's necessary, especially if what you do on a daily basis involves like just on flat chat all day long. Like you need some sort of reprieve where you can gather your thoughts.
Yeah.
So important, man. And again, that's the kind of stuff that allows you to be, in the mindset and whatever that you are. And that it's like a multifaceted approach as well, right? So, you mentioned that you've done the therapy, but then it's like that stuff is what the work's not done.
It's the maintenance.
Mental fitness. We've talked about this. We had someone come on the pod and he said, mental health has such this stigma around it. I like to call it mental fitness, so that you think about it as like the fitness that you do at the gym.
Yeah.
You can't just go to the gym for a year and then have fitness for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It is an ongoing thing that you have to continuously work on. There's going to be days and weeks and months where you might do more work than others and you might have to get yourself back into it, but the job's never done. And
100%.
You doing that for yourself every morning is part of what keeps you. If you stop that tomorrow, then 2 months down the track, you might be back to a feeling of worse that you've had before,
Yeah, definitely.
I need to get back into I need to make sure I'm meditating better. But
yeah, me too.
Remember I don't know if I've actually mentioned this, but remember way back when we had Callum on the pod and he talked about journaling.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to start doing that. Now, of course, I didn't do it straight away, but when shit was hectic at the beginning of this year, I downloaded an app on my phone.
Yeah.
It's the shittest fucking app because it throws ads out left, right, and center. But I have journaled consistently since February of this year.
Really?
Pretty much since I got made redundant. That's like my first entry into the journal.
Yeah.
Initially, it was like 2 or 3 times a week. Then went to once a week, and now it's basically fortnightly. Where like, after 2 weeks, I'll be like, I need to fucking do it. But then I'll just mention the shit that's been going on in the last couple of weeks. I write it in like just a funny, like talking to myself kind of way.
Yeah.
And I've been able to do it consistently for 6 months. And yeah, it's just a really cool.
Sick.
Now that I have, the more that I've done it, the more that I've been like, this is so cool to have like my thoughts and feelings and worries and excitement all detailed.
Yeah.
So that, in another year or so time, I can go back and be like, wow, that was so crazy that I was worried about this or thinking about this. And, I think, one of the tools that I use for helping my beautiful wife or other people, I'm like, going back and looking at a version of yourself that thought that the thing that you were going through at that time was impossible to get over, and that you were never going to be able to get through it, and really putting yourself in that position and realizing that you didn't need to be worried and that you were going to be fine, and then using that for the next challenge that comes up is such an important thing. Well, this gives you tangible evidence of me being like, I'm worried about this, or how's this going to go? I even wrote in it when I bombed a couple of, I wrote in it after that night, and I was like, dude, I had the worst gig of my life. And now I can, I wrote in it last night, I think, and was like, hey, after Murray Bridge last week, dude, you're still the fucking king.
Yeah.
So like being able to see all of those different moments and not just have to think about those times, but actually to see the written word of like, yeah, I was struggling at this time, but look where I am now, and look what I was worried about and I didn't need to be.
Yeah.
It's so important. Have you ever journaled, and is that something you've done before?
I've started and stopped journaling. Yeah, I find it hard to be consistent, but man, hats off to you for doing that. That's awesome for like self-reflection as well. Like you can sit down at the end of every day and think about like your day and how you're feeling and stuff, and recognize that. And like even 10 years from now, when you get to reread that, I'd be like, man, I remember that day. Like you'll get a really clear. I reckon that'll imprint that feeling, and you'll be able to remember that a lot easier going forward. You'll just read over it and think about it.
That's a big reason for it, is that I've realized that there's like, especially through, unfortunately, the amount of my life that I've spent fucking either doing fucking various recreational drugs or whatever, and I was really depressed that there's a chunk of my life that I don't have a great memory of. Do you know what I mean? That I don't like can recollect every moment. Sometimes I'll be drinking with my mates or whatever, and they'll be talking about a time, and I'll be like, man, I just don't remember that. Like they're talking about these specifics on these days, and I'm like, man, I just don't remember that. And I do have a very good memory for a lot of things, but like hearing those blanks and like wonder if that's because of the amount that I just wrote myself off in those times has also been why I've been motivated to be like, I don't want to get another 10 years and be like, this part of my life is a blur as well. Like this allows me to feel confident about that I'm actually documenting these things, and that there's, stuff that I can look back, like you said, and that it'll trigger the memory of like specifically what happened, because I'm reading the words and the feelings at that time. So yeah, man, I urge you to start doing it. Man,
I think I should, especially with an app that lets you fucking
I'll send you what it is. Again, all you got to do is after you hit save, it makes you watch an ad before you can get out of it, and it will save properly. But I mean, everything's got fucking ads now.
Yeah.
That's the only downside, but it's really cool. Like, it makes you pick an emotion.
Okay, cool.
That's
also
awesome.
like when you open a new page, it gives you a range of emotions. And like, I've written in my diary, like somewhere through it, I'm like, it's pretty cool that I've only picked like a negative emotion, maybe 2 out of like 50 entries.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty good sign. I wrote that in there. I was like, to think that over all of these entries, I've only had to do that. That's a cool feeling to have.
Yeah.
So the fact that you pick an emotion and then you just like write a title. I always like write some funny as fucking title.
Yeah.
And then just write shit, man, and then done. Like, do it when I'm laying in bed. The app fucking harasses me all the time and says like, do you want to remember?
Yeah,
I've thought about turning the notifications off, but I'm like, no, because as soon as you turn it off, you'll forget about it.
100%.
So like, I deal with fucking swiping them away every day. And then when I'm like, one night it'll pop up and I'll be like, oh, I need to fucking do that.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So yeah, for anyone listening, you've heard it on the pod so many times before that, people that have come a long way with their mental health. have benefited from journaling, well, I can absolutely give you my fucking testimonial that you should do it. It's really good. Erica as well, like, you know, has been now pretty consistently journaling now for the last couple of months, and you found it really therapeutic as well to really help you about, you know, realizing that you're on the right path with working on your mental health. And I really can't speak highly enough of it.
Fuck yeah. That's dope. That's
absolutely.
Dope.
And meditating, you know, again, that's one thing. It is, and I think we've talked about this a lot, but something like that where I'm stopping and I'm focused on writing something down, that's a form of meditation.
Yeah.
I always used to think that meditation, and people have come on the pod, you know, it's a quiet room, it's the fucking cross-legged bloody humming, you know, which it's not at all.
Yeah.
It's like finding some sort of state of like, you know, focus or defocus even, that allows you to like, you know, release or de-stress. That's meditation as far as I'm concerned.
Definitely. So. I mean, it varies for every person, but even for me, a moment of meditation could be having some silence and focusing in on a problem that's worrying me and just really thinking hard critically about how that problem can be solved. And you know, just taking a few moments for yourself is important.
Fucking oath.
That's a very cool way of like, even just like problem solving can be meditative, because you start at, you know, here's the issue, and then by the end of it, that's that weight off your shoulders of like, I can just actually do this, and that'll probably sort it out.
Yeah,
that's a pretty interesting, thing to think of meditation. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. Fucking oath. You want to hit him with number 4?
Yeah, well, who knows what question it is now, because this is where we always get a little bit lost.
Yeah,
but harking back to the middle part of this episode, is there you probably kind of answered it, but is there one like conspiracy theory that just has always stuck out to you as like that has to be real or true?
The moon landing.
Yeah,
I'm still stuck on that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about it.
Yeah, I'm the same. There's a lot of inconsistencies and things that just go like, oh, I don't know, like, you know, there's a lot of wind on there for some reason, and
which when there shouldn't be. There's flags waving.
They didn't even have color TV. How did they get a rocket on the moon?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I'm like, how did they do that?
How did they get camera equipment?
Yeah.
That would go through that belt of gravity
live
and survive.
Live, yeah.
Yeah, and do it live. Yeah, we couldn't even live stream fucking.
We can't even fucking multi-stream to TikTok right now. How the fuck are we streaming from the moon?
And the fact that everyone was just like, oh yeah, cool, that's a thing.
Yeah.
And like, how dare we question that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. That's a good one.
What was the studio that they said they filmed it at? Was it Paramount Studios or something? They thought that they actually filmed it at? What's the studio that like always gets like tied into the deep state? Is it Universal or Paramount?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember. But there's one really infamous studio that always gets tied in with the deep state about the way they film like a lot of this kind of stuff.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always just think of that Red Hot Chili Peppers song all the time. Every time we talk about this, they're like, space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Yeah.
Such a fucking good line. And, you know, again, that truth in plain sight shit. Yeah. Get fucking Anthony Kiedis to sing it beautifully.
That's a good song, man.
Yeah, that's such a good song.
Fucking good song.
Californication. Shout out to fucking Red Hot Chili Peppers, man. What a banger band. Question number 5. What is the best piece of advice you've ever been given? And you might have actually already said it. And I want you to, even if this isn't the best piece of advice, what was that line that you said earlier?
That real banger that you had earlier.
He who has a wire can bear anyhow.
Oh, dude, so good.
Yeah.
Can that fit in the episode title name?
Yeah.
If we can fit that, that's the fucking title, right?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Anything fit, where did that come from? Who bestowed that wisdom upon you?
So I heard Jordan Peterson say that on a YouTube video.
Yeah, nice.
I listen to a lot of Jordan Peterson. I listen to a lot of those types of people as well, and they say a lot of quotes like that, but that's the one that's really stuck out to me because it's important. You need to know why you're doing what you're doing.
Exactly.
If you don't, you're not going to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. And you said that as well, like when you were talking just about the businesses or whatever, like you phrased it in a different way, but it was like, sitting there and understanding, it was the advice that you have for anyone else.
Yeah.
And you were like, think about why that you want to do this thing. Like it is so powerful to understand. Like someone goes, why do you do the podcast? We can rattle off a fucking answer as to why. So that's the motivation to keep doing it because we understand why we're doing it.
Yeah.
It's not to become famous. We're not here to fucking whatever. Like if we can positively impact the life of someone, either coming on the pod or listening to the pod, that's what we're here for.
And also for me, like quite honestly, like doing this is my mental health like release. Like, so like I'll be feeling fucking mega anxious about something. He'll roll around and he'll start chatting and we'll start talking about shit. And then someone will roll up. And then by the end of it, whether we talk about mental health or not, I'm feeling like 10 times better.
Yeah.
So it's strange because it's like there's so many reasons. But for me, that like personally, that's one of the biggest reasons why I do this anyway.
Yeah. It's super cathartic, man.
Yeah.
We've said it all the time. Like, there's been that many episodes where I've like rang you on the way home and I'm just like, dude, that was so fucking good.
Yeah,
you know? Like, so it's for us as well.
That's awesome.
Fucking oath.
All right. One more before we get into the all important.
Yeah.
We love this one now. And again, always shout out to Nick from the Better Project. But what are 3 things that you're grateful for today?
I'm grateful for my partner, Nicola. I'm going to tear up now.
Shout out
to Nicola. How long have you guys been together for?
We're coming on 4 years now.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
she's like my support rock, man.
That's awesome.
And a business partner now as well. She's the
pretty much, yeah. She's like my right hand woman in everything.
Yeah,
so
fuck yeah, dude. That's awesome.
I'm grateful for my entire family, and I'm just grateful to be alive and to live a happy life.
Yeah,
that's amazing,
that's
man.
cool, dude.
I love that question.
Yeah, I
love
love
fucking got goosebumps.
Yeah.
That's so special.
Gets
Hey,
right
and that's
in the
why we
heart.
like throwing it in there because it's
Yeah.
good. And it's the perfect segue from the heartfelt and the fun to the all important,
To the almighty.
the one that we're always here for. Hit them
All
with
right, I'm going to focus myself because I get this wrong
Because you're
quite
gonna
often.
tear up. Because you're
Because
gonna
I'm going to
tear
tear up if you choose the
Oh,
wrong answer.
no.
Okay, nah. Would you rather fight 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? Dun, dun,
Oh yeah, we need that.
100 duck-sized horses.
Yeah, you go the small ones.
Go the horses?
Yeah, I reckon.
Why is that?
I don't know. You'd probably kick them all.
Oh, he's a punter as well. We've had a few punters now, haven't we?
We're gonna need someone to go back and do a tally for us.
Yeah.
We need someone to go back. We're gonna have to hire some little shifty Iranian
it's a
just to go back and listen to every answer and
tally
create
out,
a tally.
yeah.
I'd
It's
love to see.
It's a tough one though, because you don't give us a lot of information there.
That's the whole
that's
idea.
the whole idea.
How
He's told me
fast-
off for adding nuance to it.
No, it's because you add nuance before they've given the answer and it sways their opinion.
No, but you should really specify how fast the horse-sized duck's gonna run.
They're horses.
Yeah, as
Wait.
fast as the duck's moving as fast as a horse.
ducks.
Like,
You said.
Oh, no.
horse-
So the ducks stay like ducks and the horses stay like horses, right? But it's just the size.
Ah,
yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
So the little horses are fucking fast. So the little horses are
Oh,
fast.
God.
Context. Stop. You're giving context.
Okay, fine.
That's so good.
He's still
So
got-
one big fuck off duck that moves
Like
like,
a
a duck,
acts like a duck, thinks like
but
a
is
duck.
just big.
Yeah,
and then
that's-
100
Okay.
small horses that move like horses.
Oh, what? I don't know then.
No one's ever like backed out
Yeah,
of the
hey,
fucking.
no one's ever gone.
no one's
"Oh,
ever gone nah.
Maybe the one duck is easier. The thing that I've always thought about with the horses is like horses are quite intelligent. Horses are quite fast. And if we're sitting here going like, oh, a duck, it's going to get me, right? Imagine a fucking horse. Like if everyone's so scared of a duck, they're like, oh, it's a duck, it's going to get me, you know? They're tiny and you're still scared of it. Well, imagine 100 of those, but they're horses with the aggression, the speed, and the intellect of a horse.
They're coming at you.
But I think that
They're coming
I think
at you.
people's thing
Saddle
is
up.
that they're more afraid of the duck because like ducks are notoriously more aggressive than like you think like a lot of people's experience with a horse is like this beautiful, majestic,
Yeah.
like, I'm feeding it a carrot.
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of people's experience with a duck is being chased in the fucking botanic gardens,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's what's translating across to the whole, they're thinking of that aggressive duck times fucking this.
Yeah.
And then they're thinking, oh, these cute. Like, think of a fucking Shetland pony. No one's afraid of a Shetland pony. It's the cutest thing in the world. Well, this is an even smaller fucking Shetland pony. And there's just 100 of them.
But if you start punting one or two of them, you don't think the horses are going to be like, hold a minute,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Yeah, but think about puppies, right? Like, you know, there's like cute little if it's just like 100 puppies, you're going to punt one. They're just going to keep coming back to
Yeah,
get
but that's
punted.
puppies, not horses. Horses are a lot more aggressive than puppies, dude.
I guess, yeah.
True.
I mean, if you're talking about like an adult horse and he's like, this is my family of 100 horses. This is you know, fuck with my family.
Little horselings.
If it's Vin Diesel's brain in a horse and he's going, you don't fuck with family, Well, then, that man's going to generate some horsepower.
Vin Horsling.
No.
Vin Horslings, that's what they are.
Fucking hell.
Love
man.
it. All right, well, let's wrap it up here, eh? Mitch, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate your time, dude.
Thanks
Before
for
you
having me.
go, shout out the two businesses. If, wherever they can find you, how's the best way to get in contact you? If they want some landscaping, if they want some indoor plants, how are they going to find you?
All right, well, shout out to SAP. Shout out to all the SAP boys as well. Best way to contact us is online, probably Facebook or Instagram, by typing in SA Premium Landscapes. Pot Plant Paradise, the best way to get to us is either Instagram, Facebook, or directly through our website at www.potplantparadise.com.au.
Awesome.
And just jump on and get your loved one an indoor plant.
Yeah.
Don't buy them flowers. Get them a fucking indoor plant.
Well, it's coming into summer now, so, it's perfect time to be doing it, I guess.
Yeah. Erica's going to be going. I can already tell the look in her eyes. She's going to be jumping on the website in the car.
Having a gaze at the produce.
Having a little cheeky.
You've got to.
Yeah, there you go. See, look at that. That's a businessman.
That's a
right?
businessman.
Looked over.
He's not telling you. He's not suggesting. He's telling you need to.
I don't know why I have. No, because I know what will happen to the funds in the bank account. If you have access to a plant store and you know it's supporting a local bit. Now it's even worse. Now she's got to hear. Now she's got to hear the story behind the man. She's going to be like, no, literally, our life savings now. We're going to help that dude grow his business.
You're going to be like, I saw Mitch again yesterday. He's just fucking hanging
That's a
out.
problem.
One delivery per day.
It's
That's still a lot. That's 365 deliveries a year. No weekends or?
No, we work weekends.
365. No Christmas?
The hustle never
I'll
stops.
deliver any day you need me to.
Oh, shit.
We deliver out birthday gifts on the day of birthday. So if it's a Sunday, I'll deliver them out on a Sunday. Saturday doesn't faze me. Whatever I need to do to support birthday gifts, we'll do it.
Fuck yeah, that's
What a
awesome.
legend. Well, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we'll have you back at some point in the future so you can tell us about your 9 new businesses. And keep doing what you're doing, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on.
No worries. Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.